Yeah, we back. Now today, man, we got to have a very important conversation. Today, we're going to talk about democracy, right? You know, I've been talking about the West African politics, things like that, especially with the Western powers endorsing an invasion of an African country, right? An African country that's essentially harmless, right? One of the poorest countries in the world, but they want to inflict violence upon it to enforce democracy. Now, I think yesterday or the other day, elections happened. Democratic elections happened in the country of Gabon, another French colony, right? So we're still kind of in the aspect of the African French politics, right? And it's interesting because Gabon, I mean, there's nothing democratic about Gabon, right? But the Western powers, they love Gabon. They never had a problem with Gabon. They never were inclined to mobilize troops against Gabon to enforce democracy. Nah. But anyways, let's talk about the elections that happened, I believe, yesterday or the other day. Take a look up on the screen. This tweet says, voting took place today in Gabon as well. And guess what? The government, who has been in power since 1967, shut down the internet, removed names of candidates from the ballots, stopped international observers and journalists from covering the elections, while electoral officers arrived late at the polls. This is all for a candidate who has already done 2 terms and wants to do a 3rd one after his family has been in power for the last 5 decades, for the last 50 years. Now, in Gabon, we have a powerful family called the Bongo family, right? The Bongo dynasty, whatever you want to call them, right? And I believe I'm going to call him Bongo Senior, Bongo Junior. So Bongo Senior, I believe he came to power back in the 60s. And I believe he remained in power up until maybe like a decade ago, to be honest with you. Now, why was this family allowed to stay in power? Remember, I mentioned, I think it was in Cameroon. I told you the head of state over there has been in power for the past like 40 years or some shit like that, right? And that's also a former French colony, but there are no calls for democracy. You know, the troops aren't being mobilized to reinforce democracy up in these nations, right? Because it serves the interests of the Western power. So if it ain't broke, don't fix it. That's the mentality, right? So how has the Bongo family been allowed to remain in power and dominate a nation for half a century? How was this able to happen? Well, there was a variety of factors that led to what's happening today. And as you can see, yes, the Western powers and other allies, they pick and choose when democracy is of importance. Number one, back when African nations were getting their independence back in like the 50s and the 60s, things like that. After Gabon gained its independence from France back in the 60s, the country experienced relative stability compared to its neighbors. But this was due to the vast amount of natural resources, which provided a significant source of revenue for the government, as well as leverage when it came to international relations with the foreign powers, with the Western powers. And also, Bongo Senior, like most corrupt politicians, he was very skilled at political manipulation, right? Many of the elections that he participated in, they were criticized for fraud, irregularities, underhanded tactics to maintain his own political party in power, to maintain the dominant position in the political landscape, suppressing the opposition, throwing the opposition in jail, lying on the opposition, slander campaign against the opposition. You know how it goes, man. And also, Gabon maintained close connections to France. So France was never inclined to promote democratic reforms because France had significant economic interest in Gabon, particularly in the oil sector. So France was more inclined to maintain stability, to maintain their economic interest. Like I said, if you have a regime in place that serves your interest, if it ain't broke, don't fix it. Man. And also, I believe France has a military base over there too. So they use Gabon as a projection of their power in the region, right? So that's why you could have a family sitting in power for 50 years and the Western powers, they look the other way. But Niger had been in power for 1 month and they're already mobilizing the goddamn shooters. Let's continue. Now, take a look up on the screen. As you can see by the headline, Gabon shuts off the internet and imposes a curfew as Bongo Jr. seeks a new term. President Bongo, who succeeded his father, seeking a 3rd term. Take a look up on the screen. Poll delays in Gabon as President Bongo seeks to extend the dynasty. President Ali Bongo is seeking a 3rd 7-year term in office to extend the family's 56-year grip on power. Man, that's that African democracy for you, bro. That's that Western democracy, man. That's that lovely democracy, you know? That's that lovely democracy. Let's continue. Some Gabonese voters have encountered delays in taking part in Saturday's presidential, legislative, and local elections that the opposition hopes will foil President Ali Bongo's bid for a 3rd term and end his family's 56-year grip on power. Of Bongo's 18 challengers, 6 from major opposition parties have backed a joint nominee in an effort to narrow down the race. Voting was meant to kick off across the country at 8 a.m. local time, although several polling stations in the capital saw significant delays, a reporter said. Posts on social media, formerly Twitter, reported that voting had started in some areas, but others noted their polling stations were still closed. The vote is a much anticipated test of support for Bongo, who has served 2 7-year terms. Detractors say he has done too little to funnel Gabon's oil wealth towards the third of its 2.3 million population living in poverty, and question his fitness to govern after a stroke in 2018, Bruh. Jesus Christ, bro. Going back to what the article mentioned, the amount of Gabonese citizens living in poverty. These are the people that we forget about, right? You notice on Western media, the only thing they talk about is their economic interests, right? They only talk about their economic interests, their military bases, their access to resources, but we always forget the common man and woman that has to live day to day with the consequences of Western interference in our politics. They love to distract us with all this talk about Russia and all this shit, but what we never forget about is the common black man and woman that has to live day to day trying to survive. Stop talking to me about Russia. Stop talking to me about your bullshit military base. Stop talking to me about your multinational corporations. I don't give a fuck. I care about the common black man and woman that has to live day to day trying to survive based off your bullshit economic interests that don't even align with our economic interests as black men. Now, anyways, let's continue. Gabon's government announced on Saturday it was imposing a nighttime curfew and cutting internet access in the wake of the general elections in the African state. The overnight curfew will be imposed from Sunday to counter the spread of calls for violence and false information. Internet access has been suspended until further notice. That's that democracy for you, bro. We shutting off the internet. We telling you go home at 8 o'clock, man. That's that lovely democracy. And when the goddamn military, never mind. Anyways, let's continue. The 64-year-old incumbent assumed office in 2009 after he succeeded his father, who himself had been in power for over 40 years before his death. Now, let's take a look at some of the reactions on social media. This person said at the top, when a coup takes place there tomorrow, people will be asking, why should the military step in? This is how it starts, and the so-called defenders of democracy are quiet. And the person responded and said, there was an attempted one already. I never heard about that. This person said, the African Union and the United States will soon send congratulatory messages to the winners, even when the rigging evidence is very clear. This person said, and nobody is crying that democracy must be restored. Wait till a military coup happens. You'll see unions crying and wanting to install fake democracy in Gabon. This person said, rigged elections are just a democratic version of military coups. It's that simple. Absolutely. This person said, you can't tell this generation of young Africans that rigged elections do not matter, but military coups is where you draw the line. This person said, his family has been in government for 50 years. Is it a monarchy? What's wrong with African leaders? Now, I'm not anti-monarchy, but if we're gonna operate based off of monarchy, then just say that. I'm not against monarchies, man. We could point to civilizations where black societies have prospered under monarchs. I'm not gonna stomp against monarchies, but if you want to be a monarch, then just be a monarch, man. Stop trying to rig the elections. Stop trying to cut off the internet. Stop trying to jail the opposition. If you want to be a king, then just be a goddamn king. Just say I'm King Bongo. King Bongo in the goddamn building, and that's what it is. Stop trying to put this democracy facade on, bro. You're not a democratically elected president. You a fake king. Now let's continue. This person said, the so-called African Union will not see that, but if the military strikes and takes over, they will tell you they want to defend democracy. Why can't you defend democracy against all these blatant civilian coups as well? This person said, ECOWAS is nowhere to be found. A coup happens in Gabon. Abdul Salami Abubakar and his entourage will start shuttling in, burning scarce aviation fuel. Then a certain Bola Tinubu will charge and start threatening invasion. Damn. Well, man, let's continue. This person said, a military coup always starts from a political institutional coup. Tomorrow, people will be asking why the ceaseless coups in Africa. This here is the usual precursor. I agree. This person said, you think a country can democracy their way out of such bondage? I don't believe so. Now, you got to understand, the reason why corrupt regimes always maintain their connections to the Western powers is because they know they don't have the backing of the people. They know they rose to power under fraudulent means. So when you know you came to power under fraudulent means, you kind of need someone backing up your movement. You know what I mean? So that's why, the French military base right in Gabon. The French are right there, you know, because they got to provide security to the Bongo dynasty, to the Bongo family dynasty, right? That's why, man. That's why, you know, it is what it is. Let's continue. This person said, tenure elongation through fraudulent electoral means is a coup. The African Union and the Central African Regional Body should suspend Gabon and send in soldiers. France, the United States, and the UK should condemn this coup against the voters, just as they have done for coups in Niger, Burkina Faso, Guinea, and Mali. I agree. Send in the shooters, man. Send in the shooters, man. We got to reinstate democracy. Send in the gangsters. Send in the assassins ASAP. Let's continue. This person said, this type of democracy is encouraged by the African Union. As expected, they will be silent and not suspend Gabon. Rather, they will soon start sending congratulatory messages to the criminal that has hijacked the country. This person said, also, it's 7 years per term in Gabon, and there is no term limit. The current president is going for his third term, and his family has held the presidency for 56 years straight. This person said, democracy is not looking good in Africa because most of the members of the Old Boys League, that is the AU, are beneficiaries of rigged elections. During the 2021 elections in Uganda, Museveni shut down the internet and oppressed political opponents such as Bobby Wine, and the AU was mute. I remember that. This person said, Gabon is, by the way, a French colony, and this is what happens in all French colonies. Indeed. This person said, they can't blame Wagner Group or Putin for this, so they'll mention it a few times and then forget about it. Oh man. Yeah, man, y'all gotta understand. Y'all gotta stop distracting us with all this Russia shit. To the common black man and woman, they don't give a fuck about no Russia, bro. They don't give a goddamn about no Russia. Russia is not that important. Russia is important to them Western boys. So the black man, we ain't worried about that bullshit, man. We got our own political interests and our own agendas that we worried about. Stop talking to me about no fucking Russia. Now let's continue. He went on to say, France will not threaten military intervention to restore democracy here, even though they could easily do so, as they have a large military base in Libreville and are essentially keeping the Bongo dynasty alive. Exactly, I mentioned that earlier. This person said, in other news, let's not forget, the people of Gabon were pretending to vote yesterday. A crippled Ali Bongo will be announced winner to extend his family's 56-year rule in Gabon. His father ruled for 43 years. This one is going for the third term. This is African democracy. Man, that good old democracy, man. That lovely democracy right there, bro. Hell yeah. This person said, the high rate of brutal civilian coups in Africa is alarming, and the African Union is not saying anything about it. Gabon, another country where one family has ruled for 56 years, Ali Bongo, even with his deteriorating paralysis, is desperate to remain a lifetime president. Shut down the internet, remove names of candidates from the ballots, stop international observers and journalists from covering the elections, while electoral officers arrive late at the polls. How can that be a democracy? It's not. It's a fraudulent monarchy, you know. He not man enough to just hop on the throne and be like, listen, King Ali Bongo of Gabon. Instead, he's perpetrating a fraud as a democratically elected leader. But anyways, I'm not going to be here too long, man. I just wanted to point out the hypocrisy, as I always do, man. It's your boy Neferkari, that's Elaine back in the building. Yes, indeed. Cash App up on the screen, and I'm gone. Peace.
Reincarnated, I'm back in original fashion. I left on a horse and came back in the ass, and I left with abundance and came back to famine. We used to be pyramids, now we be rapping. Look how the mighty have fallen. Used to be running, now we be walking. When you be cooning, that's when they applauded. Selling your soul, your sons and your daughter. Gotta come up in this shit, they stuck in the mix. Really, my heart it be breaking. That's why I'm stacking that paper and handle my business. Pass it down in generation. Talking about money and power and building a nation. That's a deadly combination. Never be watching the TV, they pushing agendas, falsifying information. Know they got malice intentions. Step in the room and I'm feeling the tension. Enemy watching me blocking my vision. Pay for the check cause I need my redemption. Building my kingdom, I need it protected. Ready for war like a young Money Congo. Never decided the team is the motto. Up in the crib and I'm whipping up waffles. Up in the crib and I'm smoking gelato. I'm chilling, I'm taking my pain and make it ambition. I'm blessed by the gods, but I ain't religious. I came for the power, they came for the bitch. They making no hourly wage, I got business. This is an art and they could never be taught. Selling my soul, I can never be bought. Play with my money, I see you ain't caught. Run to the check and I do it for sport. Babylon falling, I go to the source. Packing my luggage and go overseas. Shorty be with me and she so elite. Shorty be chocolate, I'm calling her Hershey. Secret intelligence probably gon' murk me. Don't fuck with brands cause nigga I'm Haitian. Say the wrong shit and you're smacking their faces.